Just fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
get some sleep.
Hey you. Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. A podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey you, happy 11th episode. Saying that makes my body jitter because I can't believe it's true. I started this podcast on the day I turned 30. And as one last way to stick it to my 20s that I could be comfortable with things that often made me uncomfortable. And here we are, on episode 11. Thousands and thousands of people have listened to the show so far, and I can't say thank you enough for tuning in. I hope you've taken away a thing or two from these episodes to help you pump up the way you live your life. I've taken so much away from the guests on this show, and I can't wait to share even more strong voices and stories with you. Like this week's episode with Jess Cording, a registered dietitian, health coach, and writer with a passion for helping people streamline their wellness routine and establish a balanced relationship with food and exercise. I've always had an odd relationship with food myself. I've been a vegetarian since I was 6 years old, which means I've mostly had just pizza since I was 6 years old. The older I've gotten, the more it's clicked. Food isn't just something to eat when you're hungry to make you feel full. Food is medicine. Food is energy. Food is sometimes even the cure to your wildest health problems. I'm excited for you to listen to the advice of this week's guest, who shares how to eat healthy when you're on the go, not much of a cook, or super picky. Just like me. Welcome to the show, Jess. I wanted to start off with a game. I figured it would be fun to play 2 Truths, 1 Lie, food edition. So I'll give you some time to think of your 2 truths and 1 lie, but I'll go first. I wrote mine down. Okay. 2 truths, 1 lie. I've been a vegetarian since I'm 6. I'm terrified of mushrooms, and I'm lactose intolerant. Which one of those do you think is a lie?
Terrified of mushrooms.
That's one of 2 vegetables I really am terrified of. So I can't seem to get over that, but everyone is eating mushrooms like crazy these days.
I didn't get into mushrooms until 7th grade, and we studied them in science class.
Yeah.
For some reason, it was learning about it. I was like, oh, that sounds weird and interesting. I should put it in my mouth.
But people are using mushroom powder for a lot of stuff, right?
I get a lot of questions about that.
And it's a good thing to do.
I used to work for an acupuncturist years ago. I was her office manager before I was a dietitian, so I studied a lot about Chinese medicine because I ghost wrote a lot of her blogs and newsletters. So I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I know quite enough to be you should put mushroom powder in everything.
Yes. I feel you, and I feel like there's so many different powders people put in things that it's you can't overwhelm your food with powders, right? People need to eat real foods too.
Yeah. I see that a lot. People think that adding a supplement or a powder, or a gel is the same as actually eating that food.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's also the behavioral part and just the experience of eating something is totally different from just putting it in a thing of water and shaking it up.
That's actually a really good point. So one of my truths was that I've been a vegetarian since I'm 6, so I don't eat meat, which means I don't get a lot of protein, and I go through phases where I overwhelm stuff with protein powder. Do you think that the powders don't really give you as much nutrients as the real food?
There's so many cool products on the market, but they're not all created equally. But
yeah.
I do feel there is something missing when you kind of go the powdered route. It's great in a pinch or if you're needing to supplement to bulk up the nutrient value of something. But I do find that people who rely on it a lot, they tend to not feel as satisfied in a way. I think a lot of it's mental, though, and like visual, because we're so visual with what we eat.
I think that's so true. And also, I feel like when I'm using protein powder, I still don't feel like I'm getting the right kind of nutrients, because you don't know how much powder to take, you know, and I feel like it's definitely not the same as eating real food. So my lie was that I'm lactose intolerant. I'm not lactose intolerant. I love pizza. I love milk, probably too much. So that is not my truth. But do you want to go? Do you have 2 truths and 1 lie?
Yeah, let's see. I eat chocolate every day. I love bacon. And I cook tofu at least once a week.
Oh my goodness. I feel like all of those are true. Do you really eat chocolate every single day?
Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Dark chocolate or regular?
Dark chocolate.
And dark chocolate, is it true that dark chocolate is good for you?
You know, there's a lot of great research behind it. Yeah. You know, you're better off with the darker stuff. Like I would recommend like 85% and up. Like I always joke, like I like my chocolate. You know, my taste in chocolate says a lot about my heart. Dark and bitter, but a little bit sweet. But there's a lot of cool research showing that there's different compounds in chocolate that have really powerful antioxidant benefits, can help boost our serotonin levels, which is helpful for, you know, upping our mood. Mm-hmm. There's a lot, and there's been research about cardiovascular benefits related to the antioxidant activity, and I just feel like there's more and more research coming out about chocolate, and just from a taste standpoint, like being able to just have a really nice piece of chocolate every day. I feel like I've noticed this in my own life, but also for a lot of my clients, where, you know, they enjoy something really, really good, mm-hmm. and they don't need to just fill their plate with, like, filler, you know, like 100 cal packs of, like, fake Oreos or whatever.
Yeah. One of the things I see that you say a lot is everything in moderation. What does that mean? You know, so in my sense, I don't think that I could eat a tiny bite of chocolate. I would have to have the whole chocolate bar. So how do you look at a food like chocolate or something else that might not be known as the healthiest and say everything in moderation? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to look different for everybody. And it is going to differ based on, like, what our particular, like, I hate to say the word, like, pick your poison, but mm-hmm. I always say, like, pick your priorities. Like, for me, I would not want to give up bacon. Oh. That's just one of those things that, like, I just love it. But I know that it's not really good for me. Yeah. So for me, like, finding moderation with that is, like, I'll let myself have it, you know, once a month. But mm-hmm. it'll be, like, in, like, a setting where it's, like, maybe I'm out to brunch with somebody, or I'm cooking something I really love, and it's, like, the best bacon I can afford, ideally. You know, so it's more of an experience. Mm-hmm. You know, I do that with red meat. Like, my family is part Greek, so I grew up eating lamb, and, like, that's another thing I really, even though it's not something I should eat all the time, I still include it, you know, a couple times a month, because it's something I really enjoy, but I make sure that it's the best quality I can afford, it's a small portion, it's something I savor and enjoy, instead of just, like, devouring it.
So portion control in a sense, right? Instead of having the whole chocolate bar, give yourself a piece, maybe once a week, once a night, something like that, so that you're not, because I find if I say to myself, Jen, no pizza for the next 30 days, all I think about is eating pizza.
I did that once with drinking.
Ooh.
That was a really bad idea. I never did that again.
It's hard because when you cut out something you love, all you do is think about that and you hate everything else.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And, you know, it's going back to, like, mental, emotional piece. You know, we all have that stuff we can't be moderate with, though, I find. Mm-hmm. So I feel like being honest with yourself about what that thing is really important. Mm. Or making sure that if you are going to have it, you know, if I have a client who can't be moderate with chocolate, you know, we won't have her buy bars of chocolate or keep pieces of chocolate in her desk. Like, it'll be a thing where she'll have it if she's, like, at a party and it's, like, one piece or something.
Yeah. I totally think that's the way to go. So I'm guessing your lie is that you don't cook tofu every day.
Don't. Once in a great while. In a past life, I lived with a man who was a vegetarian, so I learned a lot of really cool vegetarian recipes, but it just wasn't the right fit for my body. I was, like, hungry for 4 years.
You know, I've been vegetarian since I'm 6, and I find that I'm always hungry because it's really hard. I never recommend people go vegetarian or vegan unless they truly know what they're going to be doing and they have a plan. Because if not, people think, like, okay, I'm going to go vegan because it's healthy, or I'm going to go plant-based because it's healthy. But do you think that if you don't do it the right way, it can be even more damaging?
Oh, yeah. I ended up with really serious vitamin deficiencies. And, like, I ended up with, like, a really painful injury in my arms that was related to low vitamin D levels. And I thought I was dying a slow, exhausting death. And it turned out my B12 was just really low. Like, I was, like, 23, 24. So I didn't know yet, like, what was really... I just thought it was protein. So I feel like my experience of doing it wrong actually has helped me counsel people to do it right and in a more mindful way so they don't experience what I did. But oh my gosh, I learned that one the hard way.
I'm 30 and I'm still learning it the hard way because I know that I'm deficient in a lot of things, but for somebody who might not have the best diet, how do you find out what you're deficient in?
I mean, this is an old-fashioned response, but your best bet really is to touch base with your doctor, get some lab tests. Because I thought when I had a B12 deficiency, I thought that I was just, like, achy because maybe I had some, like, horrible, like, cancer. I thought I was crying every day because relationships were hard, and I went to the doctor and I was like, I just feel like I'm falling apart. And she's like, let's just take some blood. And sure enough, like, she called me a few days later. She was like, this is what's going on. And I started taking a supplement, and within a few weeks, I felt like myself again.
That's so interesting because one of the things I want to talk to you about is that I don't think people realize how connected food and nutrients are to a lot of things happening to their body, to their mind, to their life. So what kind of relationship does food and your hormones have? Because I know that I'm going through like extreme PMS problems right now. And the more I read about it, the more I realize that I think it could be my diet.
Totally. So like, it depends on like what specific hormonal things you're, talking about. Like, I do work a lot with women who are experiencing, like, just discomfort around their period. Or so we'll talk a lot about, like, during that time of the month, like, a lot of people, they're like, oh, my God, why do I crave chocolate? Yeah. So chocolate happens to be a really good source of magnesium. And magnesium is a nutrient. Our levels take a big dip during that time of the month. And so incorporating plenty of magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens, chicken... bananas, nuts, great way to kind of help yourself stay stable. Potassium's another important one, especially if like bloating is an issue because it kind of counteracts our body's tendency to retain water. I won't bore you with like the biochemistry.
No, I need to be bored by it because I get so bloated. I feel like I'm a giant balloon. So I'm writing this down because I'm clearly deficient in these things, I think.
It's the thing, like one thing I see a lot of people don't realize is like, as women, we put so much pressure on ourselves to follow these like socially prescribed norms of what we should be eating and the exercise that we should be doing. And like during our cycle, like the way that our body's metabolizing nutrients changes, our energy levels change because of those hormonal changes. And yet we're not adjusting what we're eating. We're not adjusting our activity. We're just trying to like muscle through and expect that it's all going to work out, the way it's supposed to work out, quote unquote. And, I feel like we're not really conditioned to tune into what our body's trying to tell us. Like when I was younger, if I had known when I was in high school that when I had really bad cramps, like maybe a banana with like some peanut butter would make me feel better, and instead of just popping like Midol or whatever.
No one teaches you this.
No.
They throw you on birth control. They say best of luck, but really it's just masking what the bigger issue is that, like you said, we're not listening to our bodies. So what are some things that people should be eating during the time of PMS or having their period and not feeling so great?
So I definitely recommend potassium-rich foods. So that's like bananas, leafy greens, tomatoes, also sweet potatoes are a great one. Dairy products, if you eat dairy, like yogurt is like a food group for me.
Really?
And with that, the calcium in dairy products or non-dairy sources of calcium like tofu, broccoli, salmon, that's also helpful for easing cramps and such. Chocolate, I actually encourage all the time. But
I love you.
Yeah, but it's especially like, so if you're craving it, like there's a reason, so listen to it. Like I'll often have if I'm making a smoothie, maybe add like banana, leafy greens, like some cocoa powder in there. Make sure there's a protein. I also, making sure that like avocados are also really soothing for like the brain and body because you're getting potassium, you're getting healthy fat, you're getting fiber, which keeps digestion regular. and incorporating plenty of protein. Because I find that with women, during that time of the month, our blood sugar regulation kind of changes because our body is operating differently because it's adjusting to all the hormonal shifts. So a lot of women find their energy is low, but they're hungry. And often, and if our mood dips too, sometimes that's related to changes with like serotonin and like other like mood regulating neurotransmitters. So because carbohydrates are a really big part of our body's mechanism of producing those neurotransmitters, we tend to crave carbs because our body's like, hey, I need some help here. So we're like, oh, those potato chips are really easy. I'll just have those. But, you could swap that for sweet potato with some kind of like protein to anchor it, whether that's, I love tahini on sweet potatoes, or you could eat it with nut butter, or another complex carb like oats, for example. Like one of my often recommended PMS foods is oats with cocoa powder or chocolate chips, maybe some kind of like anti-inflammatory, like antioxidant-rich fruit like raspberries or blueberries, and I'm allergic to nuts, so I can't have almond butter.
Oh no!
But that would be one of my recommendations.
But you can't have chocolate, so put chocolate on everything is what I'm hearing right now.
I used to, and I didn't find out I was allergic to peanuts until I was like 30 or 31.
No way.
Yeah, it was I want to learn more about the way that allergies work. I feel like there's so much we don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's an area that it's not my area of expertise necessarily in terms of like, the mechanics of allergies or how they happen. But I do work with a lot of people on like finding their like healthy balance when they have to omit a lot of foods, because I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time like a gentleman friend making me breakfast, I had to be like, can you not use the coconut oil spray on the skillet? Like, and I didn't grow up with allergies. So it was like a learning experience, both on like a health level of like, don't die, and also on like learning how to be upfront about things that are important.
When you find out you're allergic, how come, you said you found out when you were 30, 31. Why don't we know, like, why do our bodies change like that? Like, how come for most of our life we can be not allergic to something and then people become lactose intolerant at 45? Like, what's going on with our bodies that makes us suddenly reject food?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool research about, like, the gut microbiome and just, like, gut health and, based on, like, what's going on in our intestinal system and how it impacts, like, our immune system, our mental health, and there's a lot of stuff about like potentially like environmental things around allergens, and also too, it's like your diet, like what you grew up with, and then what you end up, eating as you get older. Like part of me, like I'm allergic to shrimp also, which didn't happen until I was 30. And, I find even though I didn't test positive for an allergy to lobster, I'm terrified to eat it. And I'm probably doing myself a disservice by like not giving my body like the thing, like I'm worried now that because it's been a while since I've had it, that if I were to eat it, my body wouldn't recognize it, like the proteins in the lobster, and attack it, and that would be a horrible date to have to whip out your EpiPen.
I don't think you'd be the first, but it would be scary. You have a long and impressive title after your name. You're a registered dietitian, integrative nutrition health coach. You're a writer with a passion for helping other people live a happier and calmer life and a more balanced relationship with food. All that is amazing, but I have to ask you, how did this journey start? How did you know you wanted to move into this direction?
It's funny. I had a really roundabout career path that I think is still pretty going to continue to be roundabout, but as a kid, I grew up around a lot of like sick people, like a lot of relatives who had different cancers or heart conditions, and also just one side of my family had a really messed up relationship with food. And even as a kid, I was like, oh no, this can't be right, And I was fortunate enough actually to get the chance to meet a dietitian, like learn kind of like the no BS, like you don't have to be crazy, like this is what you need to do. And thank goodness, because this was like during the fat phobic like 90s. And so just being spared that drama, I think, saved me a lot of like brain power I needed for other stuff in high school and college. But like, It's funny. I hated chemistry in high school. Like, I didn't even finish chemistry. I, like, dropped it to take a creative writing independent study. And, like, those are those are my two interests, like, nutrition. And I also taught tennis. Like, I'm probably terrible now. But I was trying to decide between, like, oh, do I go to college for writing? Do I go to college for nutrition? But, like, I got a really awesome writing scholarship to, like, the school I really wanted to go to. And my parents were crazy enough to be like, yeah, do it. But it's funny, I moved to New York and I was like, I'll work in PR and do something to pay the bills and just write on the side. But I was doing that for a little while and I just wasn't happy. It wasn't the right, like, something was missing. And I grew up, my mom is a hypnotherapist and a psychotherapist, so I grew up around a lot of, like, alternative medicine. So I remember this was, I don't know if people still do this, but I went on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I want to have a different kind of job just to, like, pass the time till I figure out what to do next. So I went on Craigslist. I was, like, looking for jobs in, like, alternative healthcare practitioners' offices. I thought maybe I'd go work, like, a chiropractor or something. But I ended up getting a job as an office manager for an acupuncturist. And she, like, it was so cool because she, like, I ghostwrote all her materials also for, like, her blog, and this was, like, pre-social media. But, like, it was just really cool to, like, learn about the mind-body connection and Chinese medicine and how big a part food is to wellness in that world. And it gave me the bug to go back to school and study nutrition.
Wow. I like that because it was what you originally had a hunch for, and somehow it found you throughout. Which I always find to be really cool, how you think you might know what your path's going to be like in life, and then a couple of things hit you, you go on Craigslist, and everything sort of changes, It's
funny, though. I thought I was going to have to keep my writing work and my nutrition work separate. Like, I even had 2 websites for a while, which is, like, an SEO nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, I wish someone had told me back in the, like, don't do that. But, like, and I had, I did not have a lot of support in my romantic relationship at that point. Like, I was living with someone who tried to talk me out of it every step of the way.
Why?
That's a really good question. I think if I could go back and tell my younger self, like, one thing about that, it would be, like, this is about him, not about you. Like, it's not about you not being good enough or not, like, falling in line. This is about him having stuff he hasn't resolved, and he's reflecting it onto you or projecting his stuff. But, I was, like, 23, 24, just was, like, not properly nourished because I didn't have enough B12, wasn't thinking clearly. And, like, but I'm still proud of myself because I remember I applied to grad school and I didn't really, like, it didn't occur to me to, like, ask anybody. Like, I mean, I talked with my parents about it and was like, what do you think? And they knew my interest. They were like, yeah, this is awesome. We kind of always hoped you would do this. But I went and I applied and I got in. I told my then boyfriend and he got really mad that I hadn't asked him about it. And, I mean, I'm a Sagittarius. Like, we don't think to ask permission. It gets us into trouble sometimes.
I'm an Aries. We don't either, but we are a good match, you and I, as friends.
Yes. So you know what it's like.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, like, I think I had, it was, like, one of those crossroads moments. I still remember it so well. Like, just, like, where we were sitting and, like, I could have just as easily, like, been like, okay, I won't do it. But I was like, no, F you. I'm doing this anyway.
Thank God.
Right?
You know what I find because you messed up your life, and I find when people mess up their lives, so many people around them are like, no, 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 no. And it has nothing to do with you, like you said. It's because maybe they want to mess up their lives too, but they're too scared and they're watching you sort of throw everything up in the air and they don't want to be around for that adventure. Because it's not like sometimes the adventure doesn't go so well. Like, you could have been an office manager at this place and could have hated it and been out of a job.
It was, and it's funny because he was like, well, if you're going to be a nutritionist, you can't be a writer. No one's going to take you seriously. And I wrote, like, hundreds of poems. I wrote a freaking novel. I had my blog that was about food, but it was really because I needed an outlet. I remember I had this big folder of, like, writing, and I would, like, hide it whenever he came home because I didn't want him to, like, look through it and critique it or be like, you can't do this. And but it's funny though, because I found that the better I did and the more I progressed in my education, the worse he and I did. And it's funny, he ended up going back to, like, medical school. What was interesting is that when he moved out and I got left with the apartment, And I was like, oh crap, how am I going to pay this rent for this 1-bedroom in Midtown? Like, this is crazy. I was a student. So I was like, well, what can I do? Because I was working, I had just started a full-time internship in a hospital. So I couldn't go get a job somewhere unless it was working nights or weekends. So I was like, well, I can write, I can freelance. So I reached out to like every editor I knew and was like, hey, do you guys print student work? And they were like, no, but send us your portfolio. And like a few people took a chance on me. And it was like seeing that, and I made up the money, no problem. And I think that experience showed me that like, actually this is going to be okay. And like, I can be a writer and a nutritionist. It's allowed.
And you know what? I think you had to be tested like that to find out, because maybe if he was fine with it and you just went forward, you wouldn't have been convinced that you can do both. It was almost like you had to have someone push for you to say, I have to make this work because I have to afford this apartment, you know? So I do believe in blessings in disguise. And I do believe that this person was in your life at that moment for something that you can look back now and almost thank him in a way, you know?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
It's like, this person doesn't need to be in my life now, but like that experience had some value and you always learn something.
You always learn something, even from people you never want to see again in your life, especially from those people.
Yeah.
You describe yourself as a non-diet dietitian. What does that mean?
Yeah, because there are so many like strict regimens out there. And I've just found that most of the people that, there are people, I worked in clinical for years. So like I would prescribe diets, based on the medical condition someone had. And that's a different ball of wax. Those diets exist for a reason. Like there are therapeutic diets to address certain conditions. And of course, if you have something you're working with, like making modifications to support your health in that context is really important. But I just find that when people get into that quote unquote diet mindset, it sets up this good, bad, and also a lot of, I see a lot of like disordered eating patterns, whether it's a full-blown eating disorder or not. I do find that getting into a restrictive quote unquote diet mentality can be really triggering.
Yeah, I heard something out there this week that a lot of the diets out there, like keto, intermittent fasting, they're created for a man's body. So is that true? And also, what should women know about all these fad diets that keep popping up everywhere?
That's it. Actually, I can't speak to whether it's intended for a man's body, but I will say that a lot of those diets don't take into account those hormonal fluctuations. Mm-hmm. I was just researching for an article about something called the snake diet, and I'm watching these videos, and I'm like, this is, like, I'm just trying to imagine how would a woman, like, apply this to her life when she's dealing with, like, cravings around PMS or something, or, like, mood swings and energy dips, and,
What is the snake diet?
It's, essentially, like, I asked some friends on Facebook, I was like, what do you think it is? My favorite response was, do you slither away the pounds? But
I wish.
Oh my God. But, like, it's basically like a timed, like a phased fasting plan. There's a few phases of it, and it involves fasting, and, it's not like a straight up keto diet, which started as a neurological, like, protocol for, like, drug-resistant epilepsy. Like, wow. But yeah, it's like a low-carb, high-fat diet. But it's just funny because as a clinician, like I see all these therapeutic diets being turned into weight loss diets. And it's just so bizarre to me because I worked with patients with ALS for a long time, which was, talk about, I don't know why that job found me, but I'm so happy it did because like it changed my life and my outlook and my perspective, and like really highlighted how important pleasure is and sociability in terms of like our food life. That it's really, about having that experience and sharing it and using food as a connector, both like, between you and the people that you're sharing it with, but also between you and yourself too. It's really it's odd to me to see people like doing like, keto hashtags on Instagram when my idea of a keto diet is like, like one of my old pediatric patients, like on a ketogenic diet because their epilepsy was so bad, or one of my ALS patients, like on a protocol to help manage their symptoms. Like it's still a little bit experimental for ALS, but just in general, like, I think of keto as a neuro thing and something that you don't like do for weight loss.
Yeah. I recently was like, intermittent fasting, let me try it for a day. So I didn't eat until 12 p.m. How does a person even function without eating until 12 p.m.? I mean, I felt like I was starving and starving and starving. And my boyfriend did keto for a while and he got very, very sick, which apparently they call the keto flu. And I was like, you know what? I pulled him off of it. I was the controlling girlfriend who was like, no, you're going to eat real food because you are so sick and your body shouldn't go through this. So are any of these bad diets or, trendy diets suddenly good for people, or are they something that people should be more cautionate about?
I usually encourage people, because often people say, hey, I heard about this diet. I kind of want to do it. And I'll be like, so what do you like about it? What is appealing to you?
Yeah.
So we'll kind of start with, if there's an aspect of the keto diet that appeals to them, maybe we'll figure out a more moderate way to incorporate that. Or whatever diet it might be.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I think people, they are having some symptoms that they can't make sense of. So they automatically jump to food or something they're hearing a lot about. And they're like, oh, maybe I'm allergic to gluten. I mean, gluten, it's an intolerance. It's not it's not the same as an allergy to peanuts. But, I'll see people thinking they have, I had a case once where they thought they were gluten intolerant and all this stuff. And it turned out they were just eating a ton of oatmeal with artificial sweetener in it, which can be really rough on the GI system. And once they got rid of the artificially sweetened oatmeal, they felt great. And were eating bread and other gluten-containing foods with no problem.
So just break down what you're really eating versus what you think you're eating that could be good for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much noise on the internet. And it's easy to, because there's so much talk, listen to your body, buy these pills, or buy this book. Or, it's distracting you from actually tuning into your body. Yeah. So I think a lot of people sometimes think that they're listening, but really they're just listening for something they're being told is there.
I think it's so true, which I think is why diets are so hard, because people are telling you everyone's on this diet now, try it, and you jump on it, but it's not right for you. I think everyone's body is different. Everyone has things that make them feel better and don't feel better. How does a person's relationship with food start? Is there a certain age or a life event where someone realizes, here's how I feel about food? Or is it just something that sort of grows with the person as they age?
I think that's different for everybody, but I do think it starts really young. Yeah. I think even before you realize it's starting. I've read studies where they're saying, girls as young as, 6 or 7 think they're fat. I remember once I was at the gym in an old building, and there was, this isn't necessarily food, but it was, related to body image. There was a mom with her toddler, and the toddler was wanting to walk on the treadmill. And the mom was like, come on, we got to pick up the pace. We haven't even burned a calorie yet. And I just remember watching them being like, are you effing kidding me? Mm. But I know, kids are smart. They pick up on stuff. Yeah. And it doesn't always come from the parents. There's so much stuff on TV and the media just showing foods that are good, bad, fun. Fun is a word that gets thrown in a lot. Or, we learn sometimes, food is a soothing thing. If a kid is crying and we give them candy or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. That stuff gets learned really early. But I think as we age, that relationship continues to evolve and change, and for better and worse sometimes. I think it really depends on the person and what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and I think the key word here is relationship with food. It really seriously only hit me recently that food is more than just making sure you're not hungry. Food is medicine, food is energy, food is so much more than eating to be full. And I'm so embarrassed that I just figured this out at 30, but I just think my relationship with food was, being a vegetarian. How do I make myself full? Because I was always hungry. If I didn't have carbs, I didn't feel like I was eating anything. When I used to eat a salad, that to me was an appetizer. I needed the bread. I'm addicted to carbs, and that's not good. So figuring out what to eat can be super stressful. And one of the things you mentioned is drama-free eating. What do you mean by drama-free eating?
Well, there is so much hype and anxiety around food, and so many of my clients, when we first start working together, they're like, I know it's bad, but I ate this. And I'm like, well, why is that bad? I must drive them crazy. I'm like, tell me more about that. I'm like, tell me what bad means.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of judgment. And I also see a lot of people wanting to do like very extreme regimens.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because this comes up a lot with vegetarian, vegan, plant-based. Because I eat meat, sometimes people are like, oh my God, you're like a godless carnivore. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're a dietitian. But I believe strongly in a plant-based diet. And and incorporating a wide variety of different types of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, legumes. But that for some people, they do well incorporating some animal protein in there. That doesn't mean their diet's not based in those healthy plant foods, or that high quality animal proteins can't be part of it. If it's the right fit for that person, and they're being mindful of, the balance of everything, and, kind of making sure that they're going for quality over quantity, and having a good experience, like that's really what that's about to me. But I see so many people that are like, I heard vegan's healthy, or I saw What the Health, and I'm never eating meat again. I'm like, maybe if you don't want to eat meat again, like that's fine. Let's just make sure that you're in, good standing with your other, intake there. But like, I see a lot of people, like, they try to go to like an extreme place when they don't need to start there.
Yeah. I think one of the main problems I have is, I have a lot of problems, but two of them are, food is really hard for me because I am always on the go. I am always traveling. I will be out of the house from 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. And I just find myself so hungry throughout the day that I eat junk, or I eat whatever fast, and that tends to be pizza, that tends to be chips, that tends to be the worst kinds of stuff. And I hate using that as an excuse, but for people who do have a busy lifestyle, who are always traveling, what can they do to make sure that they are still eating well when they're on the go?
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of planning ahead and kind of just having your go-tos. Because I travel a lot. I'm on the go a lot. A lot of my clients travel a lot. So I'm sensitive to that.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Like, if you're on a 7 a.m. flight, your whole day is just like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to do my perfect green smoothie and put it on Instagram and with all the coconut flakes, and then have my matcha at 11, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like Instagram is so much like attractive people, like making pretty things, like, I don't know. But it's like, so I know it's not like the sexiest answer, but a little bit of forethought, I think, can save you so much stress. Like, and I actually talk to my friends who are, also entrepreneurs, or people who are on the go a lot, whether that's packing dinner for your trip home on the train, or whether that's packing some healthy snacks like in your bag. I'm a big fan of I keep talking about meat. I don't know what is going on with me today.
You're craving something.
Yeah. But I like, almost because I'm allergic to nuts, if I need like an easy protein, I'll keep like turkey jerky in my purse, or roasted chickpea snacks you can find everywhere now. I also love like stuff like cherry tomatoes, because again, like, they travel well. You don't need to worry about like keeping them cold, but you're going to get a little bit of hydration in there, and potassium, which do you ever hear the term travel bloat?
No, but I'm pretty sure I have it.
Oh my God. It's a thing. Like, so I will say, like, I do make sure to, in my own life, carry some backups, and making sure you stay hydrated is helpful. But I have people like in their phones, like, make a little list for themselves, like, of healthy takeout options, like around their office, or stuff that they know will work for them.
So how do you get that voice in your head to say, Jen, stay on track, eat healthy when you are stressed, you're tired? Like, how do you just be nice to yourself and make yourself have that positive voice? Because sometimes it could be so hard.
Yes. So there's a couple things I use a lot with my clients, and these are things I also use with myself. Like, a lot of it, I find, instead of saying you can't have that, you shouldn't have that, flipping it around and be like, what do you actually need? Or what's going to help you have a better experience, or feel the way that you want to feel? Because like, when we're stressed, like, we're conditioned to be like, oh, I need to go eat ice cream because that's what they do in the movies. But like, actually, if you're stressed out, like, you need some like healthy fats to help your brain function optimally. You need protein to stabilize your blood sugar. There's really cool research about omega-3s in certain things like fish, and like like nuts and seeds being helpful for taming cortisol, everybody's favorite stress hormone. Complex carbs, as opposed to the simple carbs that are going to spike our blood sugar and make us cranky and drowsy. I often tell people when they're stressed, eat pistachios, because like shelling them, it gives your hands something to do. So it's like you're getting that double effect of like the combo of healthy fats and protein, but you're also, and fiber to keep you full, but you're also like getting that meditative experience of like shelling the pistachios, just sort of like soothing your mind. But I do find that when it comes to like those tough moments where like, oh my God, I just need to do this. Like, pause, think about, all right, what do I need? What's going to serve me well? Not about like what some diet God thinks I should be doing, but like what do I need right now?
You're so right. And I think that's such a good thing to keep in mind, because sometimes I'm like, you know what, you're stressed, go get that pizza, you deserve it. But it's like, you know what, Jen, that pizza's going to make you feel 10 times worse, whereas something more healthy might cure a lot of the things that are happening to you. My question walking over here today for you was, how do you feel about protein bars or Lara bars or just packaged bars in general?
Yeah, I think that they serve a purpose, but I think like when you're on the go, they are a great backup, especially if you're going for something that's less processed. I tend to recommend a lot of those nut and seed based bars. But, I was approached by, a bar company the other day, like, because I get approached all the time by food companies wanting to partner with me on stuff. And I've had to learn to get really strict about who I will work with, because I want to make sure that anything I'm out there like endorsing is something I actually recommend in real life. And I actually said to them, I think that this product is a better option than many products out there. But, in general, I do tend to steer my clients away from relying on those things. Just because from a behavioral standpoint, again, like you're not sitting down having a meal. I mean, if you're on the go, like you need to eat something. So they are helpful in those times. But I get, it kind of makes my heart hurt a little bit when I like, when I worked one office some years ago, like I remember seeing somebody who would have a protein bar for lunch, and that just made me like really sad. Yeah. But I think it's also really common, because I think women, again, like we are like taught that it's not okay to have an appetite or eat, like, and I've had times when I've been like dating people and they're like, wow, you actually eat, this is weird.
I hate that. I used to hate going on dates and being like, I'll have this, and dessert. And the guy would be like, wow, that's a lot. But it's like, no, we're hungry. I express that. Like, I'm not embarrassed by that, But I guess there is a stigma around that. And also around breakfast. Like, I had a question for you. Is it true that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Because I've heard mixed things about that.
It's funny, because when I was in grad school, I did my capstone project about breakfast.
Oh.
And like, so I just think it's a topic I find really interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like from a mental standpoint too, like how we start our morning really sets the tone for the day. Yeah. And I do think breakfast is important. I know that it's not necessarily that, it doesn't have to be, like, I remember growing up and seeing like the perfectly balanced breakfast on TV, like was like cereal and toast and orange juice, and like, no, you don't have to, like, no, that's not.
And the cereal when you were a kid was like cookie, like the cookie cereal and Fruit Loops and like.
Oh my God, yeah, and I totally ate that stuff growing up.
Oh, for sure. Like, I wish I could still eat that stuff.
Oh my God, yeah, it's like that'd be like instant sugar coma. Yeah. For me, but like, I do think that having a balanced meal to start your day off. I do find that I've noticed too with my clients, when they start with a breakfast that has a lot of protein and fiber and that's not sweet, I do find they tend to have better energy through the day. I mean, that's just anecdotal. Yeah. But I do, just in terms of just having that routine, even if it's like a latte, like still some protein in there. And ideally, like I would recommend like 2% or whole milk instead of skim milk, because it's gonna hold you over longer.
Another problem I find that I have that some people might have too is eating healthy sounds great, especially when you can make the food yourself because you know what's in it. But I absolutely don't like to cook. Not only that, but I'm a terrible cook. My boyfriend will tell you on like our third date, I cooked for him because I was like, let me be romantic. And whatever I made him almost made him like violently ill because it was so bad. So for people who are not chefs, are there simple, easy things they could whip together that don't require you to sort of know what you're doing?
I'm a huge fan of frozen vegetables. Oh my God, total game changer.
Okay.
Like, they're just so easy. Like,
and do they have the same nutrients that regular vegetables have?
What's really cool, actually, is, like, generally they're frozen at peak freshness. Huh. So you're actually, and they retain the nutrients more so than, like, the stuff that's been sitting on the shelf for, like, weeks and weeks. Mm. So, like, I will say to, like, keep, like, if you, especially if you want to buy organic, like, I know when I, like, started my nutrition, like, entrepreneur career, I was like, yeah, I'm young and hungry and I want to eat all organic. And, like, you know, meaning, like, I need to make money. And, but buying frozen produce organic is a much saner way to, like, do it in your price point. And a lot of people are busy. So, like, what I hear a lot is, like, if I buy greens, like, they go bad by the time that I cook them. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you have the frozen stuff, you know, you can just, like, reach in, take what you need if that's going to suit your week. And, you know, I'll even have people do, like an omelet for dinner or, like, avocado toast and like a side salad or little easy things.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there are tweaks you can do to daily habits to keep you feeling calm and in control. I need all of those tweaks. So what are some suggestions you have that people can do to stay in control of themselves and feel a little bit less stressed out during the day?
So from a food standpoint, I do find that it does seem to come down to blood sugar on some level, making sure that your blood sugar levels remain stable, because that's really tied into our mood, our energy. Mm-hmm. So for that, I generally recommend making sure that you're, you know, I see a lot of people try to do like one big meal a day or like they're grazing through the day. I find taking into account like when you get hungriest, and, you know, that's a good barometer. Like, okay, maybe that's when you need to have your biggest meal. But in general, like making sure that you're incorporating protein at each eating occasion, and when you're having carbs, you know, generally going for the complex carbs. Mm-hmm. So whether it's like beans or sweet potatoes, brown rice, oats, as opposed to like the white flours, I do find that those hold you over better. And to not be afraid to use fat. It's so crazy because, like, I remember when fat phobia was like alive and well, and I see that younger women are more open to incorporating fat, but my clients who are like in their 30s and 40s and 50s, like, they're a little afraid because they've been told that fat is bad. I think
the word fat needs to have a rebranding because, you know, when I heard people say healthy fat, I was like, well, it's still fat, leave me alone. But yeah, that's not what it means, right? What does healthy fat mean?
So generally, it's usually, what we're usually referring to is like those unsaturated fats. Mm-hmm. So like oils, nuts, seeds, avocados. Usually if it's like solid at room temp, like butter, lard, the white, like marbling in meats, like that generally considered the unhealthy fat. Eggs, I get questions about all the time. The research, you know, it's showing that maybe eggs aren't as evil as we like grew up thinking, like egg yolks, yeah, you know, but again, like everyone's like health history is different, and like not everybody would be served well by like having 3 eggs every day, you know, but I think that incorporating a mix of nutrients and a variety of fat sources is important.
When it comes to exercise, the big question that a lot of people had was, should they eat before? Should they eat after? You know, what should their eating habits be as they take off and go to the gym?
Yeah, I got this question so much and still do. I actually wrote an article about it for Women at Forbes, because it really depends on how soon you're working out after you wake up, or, you know, or how soon since your last meal. Like, are you going to hit the gym? Yeah. And then what do you have going on after? So, like, if you are, you know, if you wake up and you're going to hit the gym, like, right away, you might not need anything. Or you might be okay with, like, half a banana. Or, like, I love, like, doing, like, a fig. Or, like, if I have, I'll do, like, this sounds like such a cliche, but I'll do, like, meal prep sometimes. And I'll make roasted sweet potatoes. And so if I know I need a little snack to, like, get me through, you know, I'll have a little bit of the roasted sweet potatoes. But then, so in general, some kind of carb if you need it before your workout within like an hour. But afterwards, definitely you want to be having a combo of protein and carbs.
Good to know. Another question that I have and some other people had was about pizza. I am the biggest pizza fan in the entire world. I know that pizza is not the best thing for you, but I do know that there are alternative types of pizza. For example, cauliflower pizza. How healthy is cauliflower pizza?
Oh my God. It's so funny because like I never know quite how to answer that one because like it depends on the cauliflower crust because so many recipes call for like tons of cheese. Which, again, it's not flour, but it's not necessarily like lower calorie. It's not lighter. It might make you like feel more full because there's a lot of protein and fat in there, but it's not necessarily healthier. It's just different. And honestly, people look at me like I have shoe heads sometimes, but I sometimes would rather see someone just eat a slice of pizza than like pick at a bunch of little things and like not feel satisfied. Because with a slice of pizza, like, yeah, it's usually white flour. There's usually a lot of sodium and sugar in the sauce. But if you're just sticking to like a regular, like not a ginormous slice of pizza the size of your head, but like, you're still getting a balance of protein, fat, and carbs. So if you're like, it's kind of slim pickings, like I would totally rather see someone like eat a piece of pizza than like pick at French fries if they need a meal. If they're like at the airport or something, like have the pizza, don't have the donut,
Ooh, I am loving this advice because I thought you were going to say no, pizza's bad, but I get what you're saying. I love this advice though. Pizza and chocolate is really what I'm taking away from this conversation. But no, in all seriousness, I get what you're saying. One slice of pizza isn't bad, especially once in a while. And sometimes the alternatives could have more loaded things in them than you know.
Yeah, like if you're going to have pizza, have the pizza you want,
Amen to that. The last thing I wanted to ask you is how important is it to take care of yourself so that you can really show up and be the person that you're meant to be?
Oh my God, so important. I didn't learn this one like until like later than I should admit. Like, I remember when I was a new intern in the hospital, I was like not sleeping. I was drinking like 8 cups of coffee a day. I wasn't really thinking about fueling myself because I'd gone from being a student and then suddenly I'm like in a lab coat running around a giant hospital. I remember one day, like I passed out one day at work and it wasn't because I was like hungry. It was like I had like a episode like vasovagal syncope. Like I just fainted in a patient's room because I was stressed out and dehydrated. Wow. This is why I don't drink tequila also because I had been drinking tequila the night before. But I started carrying around like snacks in my lab coat pockets. Like if you're ever in a hospital and like you see everyone walking around in the coats, 99% of the time, like snacks is what's in those lab coat pockets.
Wow. And what kind of snacks are good to just have in your pocket, in your purse, in your bag?
So back then I used to carry a lot of the cherry grape tomatoes in a Ziploc. I used to carry like little, because I could still eat peanut butter. So I would carry like little peanut butter crackers. What else did I bring? But something like a banana, because it's like easy to eat. Yeah. It doesn't have, it has a peel, so you don't have to worry about touching stuff in your bag. I'm a fan of jerky still. Mm-hmm. I used to carry around a lot of dry roasted edamame. That was like, I think that basically kept me alive when I was an intern. I would also carry around like hummus, like packets of hummus, so that way I could like add them to things. I'm a big fan of like carrying around little packets of stuff that you can use to like doctor up things you buy. Like I'm obsessed with like chia seeds and ground flax. So they're not paying me to say this at all, but like I am obsessed with the Hodgson Mill. They have like these little travel packs of ground flax and chia seeds mixed together. And like I always have them in my purse because I can just buy a yogurt while I'm out and like mix it in and I'm good to go for a while.
That's very, very smart to do. I want to ask you, what's your favorite thing to buy at Trader Joe's? Because everything you're saying, I'm like, I feel like I can get this at Trader Joe's.
Oh my God. I seriously, like, I love Trader Joe's. Like, okay, this is not everybody's cup of tea, and it changes seasonally. Because like when they had purple sweet potatoes this fall, I would buy like a 3-pound bag like every week. That was like, I could not get enough. But I have been loving their teeny tiny avocados because they're like the perfect portion size for one person. But I also love their wild sardines and olive oil. Cool. I know it's not everyone's thing, but I feel like for hair, skin, nails, and they taste really good if you like that. I promise they're worth a shot. Because they're boneless, they're skinless. You're not going to be like eating fish heads. You can just like mash it up and like put it in a salad. It's totally cool.
And if you don't like it, you can return anything to Trader Joe's,
Exactly.
which is something I take advantage of.
Yeah.
But thank you. Okay, I want to get into a quick lightning round with you. So I'll ask you some questions and just respond with whatever you feel like saying. The first question is, when you were a kid, what did you dream that you would grow up to become?
I wanted to be a veterinarian and a playwright.
Whoa!
Those two things.
See if you compare those two things together. That would be cool.
I know.
What's your dream job now?
I would love to just keep writing and talking to people. That's the dream.
What advice would you give Jess at age 22 graduating from college?
Oh my God. Don't try to be vegetarian to make a boy like you more.
Wish I gave that advice to myself at 6 years old. What advice do you wish you can give yourself now that you would actually pay attention to?
Take time to actually enjoy. I think I spent way too much time, like especially in my 20s, like just working and thinking I had to be like doing something all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to just slow down and enjoy the moment.
What's the best advice anyone has ever given you?
So recently, I interviewed Lisa Skyhane, who co-founder of WeWork and also of Primary, another amazing co-working space. And she, we were chatting about a similar topic, like advice you would give your younger self. And she said that, this wasn't even meant as like advice for me, but I needed to hear it so badly. She said that, when she's going through a challenging time, she always says to herself, this is happening for me, not to me. And just that really resonated with me, that, we have these challenges and, we can't always like see the bigger picture. But, she was explaining it, just because we can't see that bigger picture doesn't mean that there isn't one.
I like that a lot. Tell us about your number one moment of failure and how you kept pushing forward.
Passing out in the hospital and like going back the next day. I fail all the time. I face planted in the park the other day just walking. I don't know what happened.
Amen to that.
And I just got up. I was like, yeah, all right, I'm fine.
Hope you were okay, but you kept going.
I was a little dusty, but I was okay.
Just fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so...
Get some sleep. That's when our body regenerates, that's when our body does all this cool stuff of like rebuilding, repairing, and also I know in my own life, if I don't sleep enough, like I feel cranky, my skin doesn't look good, nothing works right, your stress hormones go all out of whack, your hunger hormones are out of whack. So sleep, very important.
Amen to that. Tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
So my website is jessicacordingnutrition.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter as Jess Cording. And then I'm on Facebook as Jessica Cording Nutrition.
Awesome. And we will link to all of that on anyyounger.com. Jess, thank you so much. I could talk to you forever. I am starving after our conversation, but I will try to make healthy choices today. Thank you so much again for all of your advice. Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.